Greetings, everybody. This is Sri Srinivasa from itsdiff Academy. It's a great pleasure and honor to meet you all in yet another episode on Leadership and Career Podcast. This is itsdiff Leadership and Career Podcast. You can say we occasionally do video sessions as well, or as you know it. All right. And thanks for your support and your subscription to our itsdiff Academy YouTube channel, as well as you can follow us on iTunes, Apple, Google, and Spotify, and more recently, Storytel. So wherever you are following us, thanks for your likes and comments. So today we have a great pleasure and honor in yet another episode of Leadership and Career Management, and we are going to extend a very warm welcome to Brittany Keith. So she is from the automotive industry guru, especially focused on enhancing the customer's digital experience, make it easier for the customer to transact with the company and organization. She has spent about 9 years in the industry between Mazda, Volvo Group, Tesla, and more recently in Volkswagen Group, with experience in product management, communications, and business development. Brittany served in the United States Navy after graduating from the US Naval Academy with a bachelor's in Oceanography and received her MBA from Duke University. She lives by the motto Carpe Diem, which means seize the day, a term her mother impressed upon her as a child. Brittany promotes perseverance, strength, and self care through mentorship and storytelling via LinkedIn. Outside of her career, she enjoys biking with her husband and long distance running. And I had a great pleasure and honor to work with Brittany for a couple of years at Tesla. And so it's really, I know her style, working function, and how she cares for others and how she collaborates and partners. So, and also more recently, I got to know her writing skills as well, then which really was very impressive in terms of how one can take care of oneself and one can be successful in what are all the successful recipes, etc. So, Brittany, we would like to extend a warm welcome to our itsdiff Academy session. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Sri. It's great to be here, and I look forward to chatting with you and everyone who's tuning in.
Yeah, very much. So, why don't we start with your favorite storytelling? It was very impressive when I saw some of your LinkedIn posting, and it was awesome. In fact, it made us to think. It was like a points to ponder, as they say. So let's start with that. And today we are going to cover about self care, how to be successful, and how to speak up, basically, so that don't be just quiet, and also how one can really be the better of themselves.
Definitely. And thank you again, Sri. To start off with a story about a little bit of my own personal journey, regarding success. I'd like to start off all the way back in fourth grade. So elementary school, I was maybe 9, 10 years old. We took a field trip to the United States Naval Academy. I grew up in Maryland, so Annapolis was the state capital. And we went to the US Naval Academy, and I was just in awe. I mean, it was just an amazing, the camaraderie, the athleticism, serving something greater than yourself. All was drawn to me. And I remember leaving there thinking, that's where I want to go to college. That's my goal. In fourth grade, I knew that's exactly what I wanted to do. And so throughout my years from elementary school through high school, I started thinking, how do I do this? This is a very, very complicated and long-term goal. How do I go about this? And that's where I hit on my first topic for success is methodical planning. So really looking at your end goal and then saying, how do I get there? What are the methodical steps that I can take or try, to reach that goal, and write them down, like almost make it a checklist. And that will at least get your plan set. You oftentimes goals that are very long-term can feel so far off, and it's confusing to feel like, how do I even start? And so that's what I did in middle school. And I wrote my list down of how am I going to get there? Now, I did come across many instances where I had people that said, you can't do it. You're not smart enough. There's no way you're going to get to the Naval Academy. You have to be a valedictorian to do that. And I actually had one of my friends tell me that in 7th grade. And I looked at him and I said, oh yeah, watch me. That was my response to him. And so that takes me to the next point on determination. You need a lot of determination to get to that end goal. And so some of the things that I had to persevere and be determined for was for standardized testing. With the SAT, I actually had to take the SAT 13 times.
Wow.
In order to get into the Naval Academy, get the scores that were required. That standardized testing was something I had a lot of anxiety over. And so I had to take it that many times in order to really get the scores that were competitive. And another thing that I had to do, the school that I was in high school was actually the second lowest ranked high school in the state of Maryland. So the traditional path that a student would take to get the courses in that were required to go to the Naval Academy wasn't enough to get in. It wasn't competitive enough. So I actually had to go to my guidance counselor and say, I want to take pre-calculus and calculus 1 in the same semester. I mean, that's, pre-calculus is actually a requirement to take calculus 1. And so they said, this has never been done before. I'm not sure we can approve this. And I said, just let me try. If I start failing, if I'm not doing well, you can work with the teachers and make sure that my grades are where they need to be. Just let me try. And they said, okay, we'll let you try. No one has done this before, but we'll let you try. And that's all I'm asking for. At any point with determination or perseverance is just try. Like, just put your foot out there, ask, and just try. And so that leads me to another aspect of this story. I'm trying to throw in the tidbits of advice here as I go, is about the support system that you have. It's extremely important. And the story part that I have for this is when I applied to the Naval Academy the first time, I did not get in. I received the letter in the mail, and the very first sentence at the top said, you have not gotten into the class of 2010. And it was a 4-page letter. I read the first sentence and I threw it in the trash. It said, because that I knew I didn't get in. Why read the rest? So I just threw it in the trash. It was a very low point. I was very mad. I was angry. I was upset. All that hard work thrown in the trash, literally. And my mom came home from work that night. And it was one of those trash cans you have to step on the lid, step on the thing on the floor to get the lid to open. Yep. And she was cooking dinner. She stepped on the thing on the floor, lids open, and she sees the crest of the Naval Academy on the letterhead. And she said, Brittany, what is this? And I said, well, don't worry about it, Mom. I didn't get in. And she digs it out of the trash can. She's silent while she's reading through all 4 pages. And she said, did you read the whole letter? I said, no, Mom, I didn't get in. Why would I read the whole thing? And what she had read was that if I went to a prep school for 1 year and I had good grades, I checked all the boxes, I was virtually guaranteed a seat in the next class. And so if it wasn't for her cooking dinner that night and being my support in a time of emotion and that I'm down and sad, if it wasn't for her, I may not have ever been to the Naval Academy. I may have just lost my dream there at that time of weakness. And so I
Very
thank
good.
her. I thank her to this day for cooking dinner that night. Which leads me to another point, is that sometimes it's just about luck. You know, it's just about the right timing. And sometimes that's out of our control. But my mom cooking dinner that night, she was a single mom. So sometimes we ordered out, or we had leftovers. So we didn't cook every night. And so the fact that she cooked that night was luck.
Okay.
And the last points I'm going to say to that is the networking and relationship building aspect of how important it is to have a strong network, which is why I like to utilize LinkedIn. And the relationship building part is all about setting yourself up for the future opportunities.
Yeah.
So it's about, you know, knowing people on the right profession that you're interested in, or getting involved in clubs to broaden your network. Anything along those lines to help you reach your goals. And so the last part I'd like to kind of close on here is that some things are outside of my control or your control. For example, I'm a woman in a man's world. The automotive industry is primarily men, and that has come with its challenges. I was born into a small rural town where my high school was ranked second worst in the state. That was against me. I couldn't control that. But the final thing I'd like to hit on is regarding privilege. And that I do want to acknowledge that being a white woman, I was born into a certain amount of privilege. I was born into a middle-class family. And so my starting line was well ahead of those whose starting line is well behind me because of being a minority or being raised in perhaps poverty. So I definitely want to make sure that that is clear as well, that I am aware of my privilege and that has been a part of my success as well.
Very impressive. Very impressive and very moving and great storytelling there, Brittany. And in fact, I always respect and believe and grew up in unity in diversity. You know, that's the thing, the inclusiveness, right? We are all talking about now. That is there right from our culture, growing up in India. So definitely, I know what you mean from the, you know, the giving equal opportunity to everyone, and also helping, motivating, and bringing out the talent in everybody's self. So unless there is somebody out there in the support system, as you see, like a mentor, right, who can
Yes,
help,
definitely.
can help. And then, like a family, the support system starts with your family and friends, and then it goes into the professional career, right? In fact, more recently, I heard about the mentorship. You know, people think mentorship is all about only in the profession. You know, you wanted to succeed in your career, in your profession, meaning in your office atmosphere. That's where it is, but it's not. It's just throughout the life. In various people could be your mentor. You can learn from them. So
Yes,
that's very,
definitely.
very good. So I've noted on a couple of points, which is very, I wanted to get your thoughts. When you said you had some goals during your childhood days, and again, it's pretty common, and the people have goals, and the question is the perseverance of, you know, working towards that is the problem, meaning it's a challenge. And the distraction, you know, the lot of distraction, because I think that I want to become an engineer one time, and then I say no, I want to choose a medical profession as the second one. I wanted to, you know, join in a do community service, or I wanted to be like a social worker, you know, those kind of things. So how can one, you know, focus their thoughts and mind? Can they have multiple goals and then give some equal concentration? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely think goals can vary throughout your stages of life. And I think part of knowing what your goals are is knowing what your goals aren't. So making sure that, you know, if you have children, or you yourself are still exploring, that you do go out and explore as much as you can in life. Always be, wanting to learn something new. And that is what helped me. That is one thing I'm thankful for with my mom, is that she drugged me everywhere as a kid. She took me to her work events. She took me to meet her friends. And I got to meet so many interesting people that had different backgrounds. And that is kind of what helped me decide what I wanted to do in life. And so that's what, if I had to give some advice based on my experience, is just to explore, and that will help you decide, okay, I didn't like that, but I think I'm interested in engineering because I love math and I love the structure and the logic behind engineering. So really just making sure that you decide what you like and what you don't like. And that will help you hone in on what those goals are and be sure of them. Now, goals also change. I never actually thought I would get into product management, but because I met some really wonderful people throughout my career, and through it was actually organizational changes. So again, something out of my control. Because of an organizational change, that was my first job in product management. So sometimes, again, it's outside your control, but really being able to hone in on what you are interested in. And then really just having that determination of there will be nothing that gets in my way. Like I will try and try and try again until I reach my goal. Okay. or a part of my goal, even just kind of getting there, right? I'm halfway there and you look back behind you and you say, wow, I've really made it a long way. And looking back is very important, because sometimes you work so hard day in and day out and you're just in the weeds, in the mud, and you don't realize how far you've actually gone until you look back. Okay. And then that motivates you to keep going. Right. So that has also helped me, is that retrospective of just taking the time to look back and see how far you've come.
Good. I think as I just learned, like goal, when people talk about it's like the growth ultimately. Like, when people are thinking about the destination, I want to reach a destination, I work super hard to get there, but again the journey is super important on how you get there, whom the people you meet, the networking that you do, the support system that you are part of, right? And then the give and take between the network which you join and learn from people who have experience. See, one thing in life is there's not experience is good. Like I remember kind of a saying, what is the secret behind your success? Okay, a guy was asked. He's actually a experienced professional and who is a successful entrepreneur, you can say. What is the secret behind your success? Then he was told, he responds and saying, that's just like my good decisions. Okay, so he says, oh, how are you able to take good decisions? He says, one word: experience. Oh, that's nice. Okay, good. You through experience, you're able to do it. Okay, how do you gain experience? The next question is two words: bad decisions. It was very interesting to see, like, so that means, so you don't need to. So you can follow somebody who had done this and then say they could tell you their life lessons, right? So very interesting, Brittany, and just wanted to let our listeners know. Hey, dear listeners, thank you so much for joining. This is itsdiff Academy. This is Sri Srinivasa. We are listening to the leadership and career podcasting series. And thank you for your likes and follow. And please do just check out our other episodes as well. Our goal is to just share what we learned, and from great experience and great people like Brittany joining us here. And also, I would love your note. And if you want any topics that you would like us to cover, you can please check it out. And I just wanted to share here. This is, you can look it up. It's itsdiff, short for It's Different News, Views, and Music Show. news, views, and music show. This is actually, I'm carrying this from my Stanford radio production days from 2005. So for people who followed our show, they will know about it. But anyway, thank you for being with us. So, Brittany, one interesting thing I noticed is you went to your counselor, and then you were not hesitant to ask that question, can I do this? So something you also wrote up earlier, you got to speak up for yourself, don't wait for something. Can you touch on that? Because that's very bold move, I would say, rather than, okay, this is what is given. It's like a cookie cutter approach. Everybody goes in, joins, do this thing, and come out. Now you are different.
Definitely. I think, gosh, I would probably say a lot of that comes from my mom. Again, bringing her up a lot. Hey, mom, shout out.
Thanks, mom.
I would say a lot of that comes from her. She's very good at building relationships. And so I would say over time, I learned that it's so important to build relationships with people, genuine, just true relationships. And so I did that with all of my teachers, with my friends, with my guidance counselors in this case, so that when it does come to asking a tough question, one, it feels easier to me to ask the question because I have that relationship built. Second, I think it's for the person receiving the question, it's also easier to discuss what's being asked. So I would say a lot of my confidence in asking comes from that initial relationship build. If I did not build that relationship with my guidance counselor and he didn't know my personality, didn't know my background, maybe his answer could have been different. So I do rely a lot on genuine relationships to help when it comes to those tough conversations. And I know you mentioned speaking up as well,
Sure.
and asking for what you want. And I grew up very quiet. I was the youngest kid in the family. My mom and sister did all the talking for me. So they would say, "Oh, do you need something? What do you want?" And I didn't have to say. They would fill in the sentences for me. So I grew up very quiet. And so when I got into the corporate world, asking for what I wanted just seemed to be so much more burden on my shoulders. Especially when it comes to money, and especially for women. It's proven that women will only apply to a job if they're 100% qualified. And so that aspect of pushing myself to feel comfortable about asking for more money was really hard. And in fact, when I first got my first two job offers, I just accepted. I was so nervous about negotiating that I just accepted. Sure, I'll take it. I'm so excited to have an offer. And so then I started learning, you know what? They're not going to approach me with more money for just doing good work. I need to ask for it. And if I don't ask for it, if I don't ask for that promotion, or if I don't ask for that role that I'm interested in, then someone else will. And so that's where it was like a light bulb to me after going through several bouts of frustration, that why aren't I getting a promotion? I'm working so hard. I'm doing really well. My scores on my performance reports are great. Why? I just don't understand why. And then I started asking, and that's when the tide started to turn.
Cool. So the question is, the two things to learn from here, from your experience. You had all the facts with you and say, these are the things that I did. Here is my quantifiable KPI scores that I have, and I've done these things. So you are saying, I am eligible to be considered for the next level or position, or be in charge to lead a project or initiative, something like that, you can ask in a work environment. And so it doesn't you should not be hesitant to ask. So you're saying you should be bold enough to speak up. And in one other, so is that right? Is that right? So
Yes, definitely. For promotions, for new roles, even ideas. Some people are afraid to share their ideas because of fear of criticism, perhaps, or maybe I need to think it through a little bit more.
sure.
Maybe I need a couple more months under my belt, and a lot of that is self-doubt.
Okay.
It's that's when I said, you know what, now's the time. I'm never going to gain, no amount of additional experience is going to help me here. I've proven myself. Earned your stripes, as they would say. And so what's the worst that can happen? If you approach it in a respectful, you have the data. If you do it all the right way and you're humble about it, the worst thing that will happen is they'll say no.
Cool. And one interesting thing that is coming to my mind is about when you keep trying, and of course you go with the data sets, you ask. Okay, so you're being courageous, and you get that model. In fact, if you look at innovation, being an entrepreneurship journey, right? Some folks, they have that great idea. Unless they put it in paper, they can't speak. But when they speak to someone, they get more ideas, and they get some new insights into. They don't need to divulge everything, but at least, right? So just wanted to touch on that since you mentioned. So now I wanted to how to be successful part. I want to ask one more question. So you keep trying. You said you keep trying. Don't give up. Speak up and watch others. Do networking. Support system is there to help. Ask for help. Fine, but then how do you take failures? Because not everybody faces success, right? And I remember I used to mention about the culture in companies who are disruptive innovation. They always say about fail fast and soon, so you learn from and then you move on. So in our case, just individual case who are personally, they wanted to be a leader, or they wanted to excel in what they're doing. How do we take failures, and what are some of your advice on that?
So I would say a lot of failure has to do with perspective.
Yeah.
And I actually don't, my definition of failure is that it's when you stop trying. So I like to say, oh, okay, I tried, I applied to the academy, I didn't get in. At that, it's okay to feel the emotions and the anger that comes with, oh man, I didn't make it. I tried, I put all this work into it. It's okay, and you should feel that emotion with failure. But I like to now, looking back after 10 years, 15 years later, I like to say that as long as I'm trying and making some sort of progress, that it's not failure until I throw my hands in the air and say I quit. As long as I learn from what I'm doing and I, take the time to have some retrospective of looking back, how would I do that different? Maybe, I need to study 4 days a week instead of 3. Or maybe I need more self-care. Maybe I put too much focus and I burnt out. So as long as I'm looking back and thinking about how can I do better next time, and what are some new things I can try, that I don't see that as failure until you just quit.
Cool. I mean, it's like maybe my key takeaway in this here is, how do I do it differently, which is very good. So you tried something, you failed. So you are actually learning your lessons there and say, okay, why can't I try differently, which is really a very good message from your experience. And second thing is, this is again often happens, which is prioritizing, not prioritizing, or focusing on the wrong things. See, that's the challenge for people. What do I focus? Where do I focus? Because people generally, in my, correct me if I'm wrong, tend to do things which are in their comfort zone.
Yes, definitely.
Because I can do it. It's easy, no strain, nothing, and then you keep trying. It's like I remember Albert Einstein's quote, like saying, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect to see a different results. Mm-mm. This is my understanding of it, but I'm not giving the exact the verbiage there. But I'm just saying. So you just don't repeat the same thing and then expect a different result. It may not happen all the time, right? So in this
Exactly.
case, so what are your thoughts on how do we prioritize so that we can
That's
work?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. And I think prioritization comes with being able to focus and looking at your looking at what happened, and then saying like, how do I hone in on those next steps? And so where those next steps often can lie outside of your comfort zone, right? And what I like to rely on to help me get over that or get outside of my comfort zone is relying on support structures and mentoring.
Okay.
So, for example, in one of my recent roles, I had two very wonderful coworkers
Hmm.
who were there to help me get better at presenting. They said, what is it? What's outside your comfort zone? What is it that we can help with? And I said, you know what? I just haven't presented a lot lately. And it's like, it's not like riding a bike. You have to do it in order to keep being good at it. Um, I said, I really want to be better at presenting, but I don't have the opportunities. Like, you can't just, I mean, I guess you could join Toastmasters or something like that. But I wanted to get real world opportunity at work. So what they did was look for opportunities, and they threw me in every presentation they could possibly find. And
Wow.
it was hard. It was really hard, but they held me to the fire, and they said, this is what you wanted, and we're going to help you get there. So that mentorship and finding a cheerleader, somebody that can cheer you on when you're not sure of yourself, that is huge and has helped me get outside of that comfort zone and maintain there. And then when you maintain outside of your comfort zone for a certain period of time, it becomes your new comfort zone. And just having that support structure and those mentors, finding those people that can cheer you on, is just absolutely powerful.
Kudos to their colleagues for just being a great support system member and guiding you and coaching. I think it happens to most of us on that. Ideas are there. We don't either document or we don't even speak up or we don't even present, and that little bit of hesitation is there. So this is very good, wonderful advice.
Thank you.
So now I have a follow up question on this. When we talking earlier about, you mentioned one has to take care of themselves, like a self care, right? How to be successful by taking care of yourself first. It's like the oxygen, the mask in the airplane, right? Airplane. So you have to take care of yourself first, and then you can take care of others. So I want to take your advice on, in this case, you mentioned about spiritually, physically, mentally, how one can really take care of themselves. It's like a holistic approach. Can you touch
Definitely.
on that? Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Yeah. So the trifecta that you just mentioned there, in my life, I have a number of goals, right? And I, at one point, added way too much on my plate, and I was just busy, 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 just go, go, go. And I was, training for marathons, and I was in my MBA. I had just gotten married and planned a wedding. I was still working full time while getting my MBA. And I got to the point that my body just said, I can't take it anymore. I'm too stressed. And so that's when I realized it was a wake up call to me, that I need to focus more on myself, on my personal health, my mental health, and being a holistically healthy person. And so I started looking into various ways that I can do this. And like, this is to the example of, trying new things, right? I needed to do something different and I needed to try new things. And so I tried meditation. I found a meditation class that was guided at a yoga studio to learn how to quiet my thoughts. And then I also went to a yoga class that was like a stretch class, that was very focused on restoration and breathing and calm. I considered therapy, just to talk to somebody about all of the stuff that was going on in my life. And I mean, everyone has, there's wonderful ways. Prayer is another wonderful way of meditation. So there are many different ways. Running, working out helps get stress out as well. So there are many ways that people can go about making sure that they are holistically healthy in order to bring their full self to work, or whatever their day-to-day passion is. That if I wanted to be the best leader that I can be, if I come to work stressed out, having perhaps physical ailments, if I have any issues myself, I can't give my people 100%. So that's where I really, and unfortunately I had to learn the hard way. So hopefully anyone listening here to this show will hopefully take that as a takeaway to make sure that you take care of yourself too.
Awesome advice. Take care of yourself. Like, if you ask me, what would you do, Shri? Then I would say I'll just go create an audiobook, or I just go and you do gardening and just go look at the garden, just listen to the birds, hear them out, and just watch the plants grow. Yeah, you're right. Whatever works, meditative, right? You're right.
Exactly.
Music and yoga, calm your mind, take a deep breath, and things like that. I think that's pretty good advice. Cool. Okay, so thank you so much for your guidance there. So just wanted to conclude this section. We can always definitely, I'd love to talk to you more and hear more of your stories. So a lot of key takeaways. Basically, have a goal, have a determination, and try to perfect, as much as you can, and get some help. Our networking support system. These are the things. Then finally, you also mentioned about taking care of oneself, physically, mentally, and spiritually, which is very good. So, and also speak up. And then there's always something new to try, and you don't need to really take a cookie cutter approach. Try something different, and try something, get out of the comfort zone and do it. So, there are a lot of key takeaways that I gleaned from our conversation. And thank you so much for sharing your experience and knowledge. And one last thing before I conclude is, you mentioned very interestingly, what you are doing now today is for futuristic opportunity. So, right, sometimes it's very challenging because you are so focused on what's happening today and trying to really get the best out of you. Where is the time for me to think about the future? This is a common question from everybody. They always ask me or somebody and then say, how do you manage time, right? So I want to ask your perspective, because you went into a lot of things you said and you learned, but now what did you advise from your experience, time management?
Yeah, that's a big one. I would say it's always a ebb and flow. I'll use words from my oceanography background. It's an ebb and flow of, do I need to focus more of my time on one thing this week? And then perhaps next week I need to focus on something different.
Okay.
And maybe that, falls back some to the prioritization. What is most important for me this week, or even today,
Okay.
or even this hour, right? If you really want to break it down to the here and now and being mindful, what is it right now that you can do to get a little bit closer to those goals? And sometimes, for example, I actually stepped back from certain parts of social media. It was taking too much of my time. It was just, I love keeping up with my friends in all parts of the world, but it was taking up too much of my focus. And so I actually decided to delete some of my social media apps, just so that I could focus a little bit more on more important things. So it's looking back at where are you spending your time today? And do you feel that's appropriate? Truly looking at, if I spend 5 hours a day on social media, is there something that I could be doing 4.5 hours of that 5 to further my goals or my passions? So that's what I did maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. I was, spending too much time on this or too much time on that. And then and making some changes to, again, focus on something, that I was more interested in, or could be spending, better time.
Awesome. Thank you. So we all have a homework to do now. Takeaway is go find out where are you spending most of your time, and is it really worth it, and what is the ROI on that, and then see, are you enjoying, or maybe it fits into your balanced physically, mentally, spiritually, for the health and well-being. So I think one has to do that, and that way you can better, I believe, optimize. And also what they say, right, you got to measure, you got to have it as a metric, as they say in the organization. Thank you so much, Brittany. So, dear listeners, this is Sri Srinivasa for itsdiff Academy. We are doing this leadership and career podcasting. You'll find it in iTunes, Spotify, Google, Apple Podcast, and whatnot. And also, this is on our YouTube channel. You can see this live session video, itsdiff Academy. You can search for. So, Brittany, for this show and parting thoughts, anything that we have not discussed, it's very wonderful talking to you. And thanks for the time. Anything you wanted to give us parting comments for today?
Oh gosh, it was so wonderful to share everything with you, Shri, and I know it was a lot. So hopefully the listeners are taking some notes as well. But I just hope to also tell everyone that to not be too hard on yourself. Give yourself some flexibility. Take that time to go on a walk or go to the beach and smell the roses, as they would say. Because that pressure can also be a negative impact. So don't be too hard on yourself.
Thank you, Brittany. Great advice. Appreciate it. And take care. Take good care of yourself too. And dear listeners, take care of yourself, and do join in our next episode. And this is Sri Srinivasa, thanking you all once again. And Brittany, thank you so much for being there with us for itsdiff Academy. Take care.
Thank you so much, Shri.
See you some other time. Thank you all.